Welcome to the Anonymous Andrew podcast. Life and the choices we make. The choices other people make. Why we choose to ignore the red flags. Red flags like gaslighting, cheating, addiction, mental illness, and much more. What role do they play in relationships? Follow me each week as we discuss these topics with anonymous guests and experts to hopefully become better humans, resulting in better choices. Like I say, been there, still doing that. Now on to the show. Anonymous Andrew with you once again. So today's episode, I stumbled upon somebody on a Friday night and on Facebook, and I had reached out to her because she has a Facebook page about people being stuck in relationships and not knowing how to get out and why they stay. And of course, as you know my story, I stayed way too long in this relationship. But so I reached out to her, and she had posted that she was looking to be a guest on podcasts, and I reached out to her, and I do not keep Facebook on my phone, folks. I just refuse to do that. So I wasn't able to check my messenger until the following day, which was Saturday afternoon, and by then she was asking me what was a good time to connect and do a recording, and I was, like I said, booked for 2 or 3 weeks. Long story short is we ended up doing it on a Sunday night, 2 days later, which is unusual. Usually I book you 2 or 3 weeks in advance. And I'm glad I did that because she fits right into what we're talking about. Fantastic. This woman has the resources. If you're stuck in a marriage, a relationship, of any heterosexual, bisexual, any sexual, if you're stuck and you're being abused and you don't know the steps to take to get out of the relationship, or you don't feel that you're strong enough, this woman, her name is Kris Valenti, and this episode is all about Kris Valenti and her program on helping people get out of relationships. So I hope you enjoy this interview with Kris Valenti. It's called Scared and Stuck. Hello, everybody. Anonymous Andrew back with you with another episode. And today I have a guest that I found online, and I'm just amazed at her bio. Today we have Kris Valenti, and Kris Valenti Kristi Valenti, and Kristi is a certified personal coach, and she just released a book. She is an author of Scared and Stuck, a support guide to leaving an unhealthy marriage. Good afternoon, Kristi.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you for having me. So excited.
My pleasure. Thank you for joining me. And it was kind of short notice. We just hooked up over the last 24 hours. Okay, so yeah. By the way, it's a Sunday evening for folks, so it's a little unusual for both of us.
Yeah, exactly. But it's good. It's happened for a reason.
Yeah. Kristi, tell us about, I'll be honest, I found you on Facebook, and your story, your Facebook page caught my eye, and my audience knows my story, but it can pale in comparison to what other people. So tell us what you do and how you got into it.
Okay, thanks. Yes, I just finished writing my first book, and it's now up and running and moving along nicely. And it's a book I wrote for people who are scared and stuck in unhealthy marriages. And this is for people who feel they don't have the strength to leave, feel that if they leave, they'll be lost without their spouse or won't be able to make it, or people who don't have enough self-worth, self-love to know that they can do it. They can take those next steps and move on and find happiness. And so I feel, even though a lot of the numbers for divorce are high. They're they probably should be a lot higher, to be honest with you, especially after COVID. People were kind of stuck with their spouses. They got to know who their real spouse was, and now with financial things happening, they're scared and they're stuck, and so they're living this unhappy life. And for some people, they'll live this unhappy life forever, and it doesn't have to be that way. There's supports out there. There's great supports out there that can help you take those next steps, and I wanted to be part of that. So anyways, I wrote this book, and it's a guide to help people take those next steps, and a framework of how to do it and what's involved, and hopefully get you through it. So that's my book.
And this comes from personal experience.
Yeah. So yes, exactly. So my first marriage, I was married to someone who was very, very controlling in a very manipulating, tricky kind of way. A narcissist in not a mean way, but in a manipulating way. And one that also had a few affairs. And after having my first child, she was 18 months old. I found out about that first affair. And then the second affair, my son was just 2 months old. But he had a way of making me feel like I wasn't going to be competent enough to ever leave him. He just had a way that made me feel like I wasn't able to do it. And he was confident that I never would. And so he continued this, the lies and the manipulation and the affairs and the hiding money and all sorts of things, thinking that I wasn't strong enough, that I wasn't, brave enough to take these steps now with having 2 kids. But I had enough, and I was not going to live the rest of my life in a relationship that had zero trust. And I stopped loving him completely. And I got to the point where I couldn't even look at him. And there was no way that I was going to live this one chance at life that we get for the rest of my life and stuck, as we say. And so anyways, those steps were taken, and I left, and I ended up meeting my new husband. Oh, sorry. My new husband, and falling madly in love and starting all over again, which was scary, but I did it. And thank God, Andrew. I wish I could explain it, like for hours to people who really don't know how to do it and aren't brave enough, or don't think they're brave enough, because they are brave enough. They just don't know it.
Well, Christy, I was in the same position. I knew that I was in a toxic relationship. I knew what she was doing. The gaslighting, the manipulation, it was so evident. I even hired a private investigator, and yet I stayed, and because I was scared, and I felt stuck. But I loved this woman, and I think I wanted to fix it. I was like this. She had a horrible childhood. She was an immigrant, and I thought maybe that if I could love her enough and give her enough and blah blah blah, that maybe she would stop doing what she was doing in her private life. Which was inappropriate to be in a relationship and do what she does. I thought I could fix that, but I stayed and persevered. Even took her to therapy and got her there, tried to get her help. But in the end, there's an expression that I recently heard, was the flags that we ignore in the beginning are the reasons the relationship ends or something, and it's exactly what happened with me.
So you identified the red flags. You knew you knew full well, because you could see the red flags. But you were afraid to lose her. You were afraid to step out of that comfort zone and take that risk, because you didn't want to lose her. you were hoping things would change.
And I was afraid to be alone. And the expression
Yes.
stick with the devil you know, then the devil
Mhm.
you don't, because I felt that I would at least I would have somebody by my side and a companion, even though I knew what she was doing. But at
Yeah.
some point, there's got to be self-love and self-respect and self-dignity
Yes.
that you can't
Self-worth. Yeah.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
okay, let's talk about the person that might be listening in the audience. He or she might be in a marriage similar to what we're talking about. They're being manipulated. There's infidelity in the marriage on the partner side. They are scared and stuck, and they come to you.
Yeah. Yeah. So we would start by just finding out, what the situation is and why they're there, why they're feeling stuck. And a lot of people, don't realize that their strength is a lot more than they give themselves credit for, and that's part of the relationship that they've been in. They've somehow been almost brainwashed to believe that they can't make it without their spouse. They can't take those next steps. They're not physically possible, or they're not emotionally possible. They've got this embedded belief that they are not strong enough and brave enough. And so someone would come to me, and I would definitely find out first what the real reason is, that they are staying. And we start from there. We always start from there and find out the reasons why. And then we talk about like plans. So, you know that you need to leave. Most people know that they need to leave. They just don't know how to do it, and they don't even know where to begin. And you always start by making, a plan. And the plan, I mean, definitely if you have kids, it's got to involve your kids, and you've got to start by having that awful discussion with your spouse. But I would always advise someone to find a therapist first. Like, there's still people out there that don't want to go to therapy.
Yeah.
And that, it's difficult because a therapist is someone that, will help you with your next steps and will support you and will advise you. And I wish more people would go to see therapists.
Unfortunately, there's shame sometimes, a stigma
Yeah,
of shame attached to
still,
therapy.
yeah,
If I'm in
still,
therapy, it must be something wrong with me. No.
still, yeah, exactly. It's still out there, which is unfortunate. But I mean, we're getting better with it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we are.
definitely, we're making progress there. But yeah, I would advise you see a therapist first. You have find a therapist. You come up with a plan. Always, you've got to consider, you know, financials is a huge one, and I think that's a big component as to why some people don't leave, especially in today's day. I mean, you've got to sell your house, you've got to start from scratch.
Yeah.
And these are scary things, and these are things that will prevent you from moving forward. You know what? A lot of people I know that I've spoken to rather stay in this unhealthy, horrifying marriage than lose their pool they have in their backyard,
Or
or
the car that they're driving, or
the house that their kids, these types of things. So it's sorry, I'm sorry about that. It's financials are a big thing. You got to get those together. Finding a lawyer, that could be a little daunting, but there's lawyers, but there's also, mediators and things like that, where you can work around the big huge legal fees and things that make you scared, or
but
but
what happens if the spouse that they're trying to leave doesn't want them to
oh,
leave, or
okay. Yeah, that's a great question, Andrew, and one that actually happened to me. So I can speak to that from my own experience. So my experience was, my ex-husband did not want me to leave. I left anyways, because I was done with having him control me. And that's what he continued to do for years and years. He would not agree to a separation agreement, which meant I couldn't get married. And my new husband, boyfriend, fiance at the time, And this had been years. This separation process with my ex had been going on for 4 years. He delayed everything,
Yeah.
refused to give in his financials. It cost me legal fees. I don't even want to tell you what it cost me in legal fees. But in the end, I took him to court because there's ways around things. So I took him to court. I had a judge. I will never forget this judge standing in front of me. And he looked at me and he said, I am going to, without a separation agreement, I'm going to grant you your divorce because it's time you move on with your life.
Good.
And then proceeded to scold my ex-husband. And that's how I divorced. I'm remarried, I'm divorced, I'm remarried, and I still don't have a separation agreement. So there's things you can do, there's ways around things. Nobody can hold you hostage. Nobody can hold you hostage. That's against the law. So, you've got to remember that, like, you do have the law kind of that you can fall back on, and you can always call the police. I have had to give advice to someone to put a restraining order in place, and the restraining order removed him from the house. There's ways around things, and that's just, a few of the things that, I can help with and advise with.
So they can't hold you hostage, and you're speaking in the legal sense, but there's a psychological manipulation where they can make you. Yeah. So my audience knows this, and I'm sorry, audience, I'm going to repeat it. There was one day that I confronted her with what I thought she was doing was inappropriate. And I said, I don't think I can tolerate this type of behavior. And do you know what she said to me? If you don't like it, there are plenty of men waiting to take your place.
So that was a threat. So she also, the threats are another thing. That's pretty common. If
you don't like it, I can fill your shoes tomorrow. Right. And that's a narcissistic statement. And but it worked on me. I backed down. I tried to establish a boundary, and I heard that and I backed off. I said, oh no, I don't want to lose you.
Yeah, that's the manipulative threat right there. And again, holding you hostage. That was a hostage maneuver.
Yeah. And what's interesting now in hindsight, she was replacing me with other men because that's what she was doing on the side. So she was with other men. So I just didn't know it at that very moment. So if a person's stuck in this relationship, and before they get to the legal stuff, if they are being psychologically manipulated in the sense something like that says, or the husband says to the wife, you will never survive out there without me, like he said to you.
Yeah.
What do you tell them? So
so these are things that, are very, they're very harmful, and they play a huge role in I'm going to call it the victim. I mean, a victim of verbal assault, it's all harassment. It's, it plays a huge part on your self-esteem and your self-worth and your self-love. This is just someone that's sucking that all away from you. There comes a point where if you can't put yourself first and identify that this is not a healthy relationship for you, it's only going to get worse. The problem is people think things are going to get better somehow.
Yeah.
And they don't.
Magically.
And if you can't, that's exactly. And that's pretty standard because you have hope, right? People still have hope, and then they go back to when they, first fell in love, and before all of this, narcissistic behavior came into place, and you wish it back, but most of the time, I can tell you, it never comes back, for the most part. Anyways, I would always advise someone who are stuck in these relationships to really reflect on how they want to live their life. Because the fact of the matter is, Andrew, we have one shot at life, just one. And you're either going to live it to your fullest, and that will include self-happiness, peace. I mean, if you can't have peace in your life because you're constantly dealing with a spouse that causes you to,
Anxiety.
oh yeah, anxiety, stress, arguments. I mean, the list goes on. It's not the way to live. And really, you have one shot at life. So, make the most of it.
Yeah.
Make that's
Okay. That's a
and
good.
your situation. I mean, you can reflect back and you can think about, your relationship, and you love this woman so much. But in hindsight, were you going to live this relationship forever? Like, you know, you can't settle for people who treat you the way she treated you. You only have one
No,
shot, right?
you're right. Here's where I went wrong in the beginning is I didn't have any concrete proof of what she was doing. I had
Right.
I saw the signs, the red flags,
Mm-hmm.
I've said it before, the swollen vagina, the disappearing acts. I couldn't get a hold of her for sometimes 12 hours. And then
Yeah.
somebody verified with me that she was associated with a gentleman's club near me, that whatever. It wasn't until I hired a private investigator and finally got concrete evidence. And then I knew
Yeah.
that, to your point, was that no, this is not what I want for my life. And
No.
um,
Mhm.
but it was still not easy to walk away. I finally,
No, it's not, because there's a habitual thing
yeah,
too, right? She became a habit. She became an addiction almost for you. And not to say that you didn't love her. You very much loved her, but there's other pieces of it too that you have to deal with, and it is very difficult to walk away from something you are almost in disbelief about too, right? Like, this can't be happening to me. No, like, this woman's not in a part of an escort club. This can't be. It's almost like, you have to kind of come to grips with it. And I'm sure that took some time for you. And I can't imagine.
and the worst part was that when I confronted her with it on multiple occasions, she would turn it around and tell me that I was the one
Yeah,
that was cheating.
yeah, that's
And yeah,
right there.
yeah, and oh, it was horrible. It was she was
Yeah,
very good at turning it around on me, telling me for months that she was holding a resentment. I basically was telling her she was Latina. So if you call a Latina a prostitute, and if you're not, it's a very bad insult.
yeah, for
So
sure.
um, she used that in her advantage just to tell me that I was insulting her, And but finally when I got the evidence, I didn't throw it in her face, but I took the high road and walked away. Let's talk about, speaking of walking away. Once I walked away, I felt good
Yep.
for a couple of days. I felt this pressure come off my shoulders or my literally my chest. I said, wow, I don't have to deal with that anxiety anymore, until a couple of weeks went by, and then I started to miss her, and
Yeah.
then realized, oh, I'm alone. It's a Saturday night and I'm not with her. And here's the beach season for me. I live out by the beach, and we were big beach people. Now I'm at the beach. Well, I'm not at the beach because I don't have anyone to go with. How does one begin to, once they leave this marriage, let's say they get to the legal, and they get
Yep.
out and the judge grants them the divorce, and
Right.
how do they put their life back together?
Yeah. So yeah, it's difficult. Like I said, like it's all very much like habitual, and you're used to it. It's just like having any sort of thing in your life that you love that you have to give up. So, alcoholism is the same thing. You're good for a couple of weeks, and then after a couple of weeks, I don't know, I'm kind of missing it, and I could really go for a drink, or
Mhm.
cigarette smoke. The same thing. Very much the same. However, speaking about what the topic that we're on, you got to get back out there. You can't, and I say this to all the people that I speak to, sitting around and dwelling over it. And I know it's like, you don't want to hear that, but it really is the worst thing that you can do for yourself. Um, you are, you you want to be happy. You want to keep busy, first of all. But I always advise people who have gone through divorce, especially people like around my age, 50-ish, um, who feel like they're never going to meet anybody again. They're too old. It's too hard. No one's, how am I going to do that? I don't want to go. I don't want to go out. Who wants to go to like a bar and meet someone? Honestly, I am feel so strongly about dating sites, and I know a lot of people are against them, and a lot of people think they're foolish. But this is what I tell my clients: think of it as like a form of entertainment for now. It keeps your mind off things. It keeps your mind off your ex. It keeps you preoccupied. And it's quite funny sometimes because you do meet some characters. But at the same time, it's opening the doors for you to maybe meet someone, maybe for you to go out for a drink. You don't know where it's going to end up. Honestly, it's what happened to me, and it's happening to a lot of people I'm working with right now. They'll say, "Oh, I can't deal with it. It's just too much. There's too many, weirdos, this and that." And then, I'll get a phone call the next day. I'm going out for coffee with somebody. He seems really nice. Like, I'm looking forward to it. Whether or not that works out, the point is you've kept yourself preoccupied. Yeah. You may meet a great friend at the end of the day, or you may meet the love of your life. You lose nothing. You lose nothing by getting back on that horse.
I am going to second you on that, but with a caveat, or with a footnote. You're correct, because that was my behavior. Was the relationship ended? Not just one, but past relationships. They would end, and I would go right back to the dating apps, because that would, you're right, distract me, right. and it became a pattern, though, because I would, within a month or 6 weeks or whatever, 2 months, find somebody and start dating, and then 3 weeks later we're in a relationship, and then the pattern kept repeating. I am doing some episodes on dating apps, and you brought it up. I wasn't going to go there, but I want to share something with you and the audience, because I'm in the middle of doing things about dating apps. I got hit up the other day by a woman on one of the well-known dating apps. She's from, I'll say it, she's from Ukraine. Okay, so right off the bat, you wonder it's a scam. But her picture was verified. The dating app has verified this profile. Stunningly beautiful woman from Ukraine, just too good to be true. And I get a hello. She matched with me. She said hello to me. And so she sends me a little meme with a woman waving hi. So I'm thinking she may not know how to speak English. In her profile, half the profile is in her language. So I can't read what she's, those questions they ask you in the profile. I can't read them. So I said to her, hello, first question is, do you speak English? And she says, yes. Okay, that's great. Okay. What part of, and then I asked her, what section of New York City are you in? And she wrote down the section she was in. And then I said to her, there are some parts of your profile that are in your native language, and I can't understand the answers to it. So can we talk about, in other words, let's interpret your profile. Her answer to that was, when can we meet?
Oh, dear.
And I said, oh, no. It doesn't work like that. I'd like to talk to you and get to know you a little bit. And if you'd like, we can do a video chat, but I don't know who you are. Right. So, and then I said to her, I do a podcast on dating, on relationships and dating. So I said, I just happen to be a little bit smarter. So I'm thinking this person could be a scam artist, whatever, or phishing, or catfishing. And then I said to her, I don't even know your name, because on the profile, the name was is Ukraine. So I can't. So she says, my name is, and then I'm not going to say it. And so I said, please tell me a little bit about yourself. I don't know. I say you after we meet. And I said, so this is the second time she wants to meet. And then she puts down an address to a Starbucks in New York City, wants me to come to that Starbucks. This was 2 nights ago. So, there's the flip side of that dating app thing. You got to be careful. I mean, this is clearly a phishing or catfishing or something.
Absolutely. You have to be careful. And the nice thing about the apps, though, is that you have control over
Well,
whether you go or not,
yeah.
whether you continue having conversations. A few of my clients right now are using an app where they scan a picture of the person's face, and it will tell you right off the bat if they're catfish, if they're real or not, because it shows you every social media app that they've got profiles on. And what's interesting is you can see all the different names they've come up with. It's amazing. It's great.
I think Match.com has a feature where you right click on the image and it will search Google to see if that image is on Google. So if they have a fake profile and they're just grabbing people off the internet. So the dating apps are they're starting to put safety features in, and especially I love this video chat that you can chat with the person right through the app. You don't have to exchange emails or phone numbers. But this person is pushing to meet me and literally gave me the address to where to meet her. And I'm like, I said, no.
You know what, too, Andrew, I'll tell you, like, one of the best things I could tell my clients, just go with your gut. Trust your gut. Your gut knows.
Yeah, my gut knows. Well, it's funny you said that, because just quickly, my ex-girlfriend was into tarot cards, and she taught me how to do tarot reading, and you got to be intuitive, and I am very intuitive, and that's why I knew she was escorting from the get-go. I just had a feeling, and so I thankfully one of my skills is intuition.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. It's been a long weekend.
I know.
Okay. Anything else you can think of telling us? So this hope, if you're stuck and you're scared and you're stuck and you're in a marriage or a relationship and you don't think there's any hope, there is, right?
There absolutely is. Don't be afraid to take those next steps. Buy my book, because actually this book will help you take your next steps, will guide you through every step of the way, kind of outlines, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. And I think another piece for a lot of people in marriages specifically are the kids. We didn't touch base too much about that, but the kids, I've got 2 kids that went through it, and not all kids are the same, but when you hear people say, well, kids are resilient, they truly are resilient, and what they want most is just to see their parents happy. I mean, what's worse, living with miserable parents, or living in separate houses with happy parents? I'm going to say happy parents.
There was for many, many, many years, and I'm in my 60s, so it goes back a ways, is that you stay together for the kids. That's I don't think that's a fair statement to say anymore. No. It's more detrimental to the kids.
No, it is. It's so toxic. I mean, when you're living in a marriage that, and then a lot of marriages, husband and wife hate each other, like they despise each other, and they're staying for their kids. It's just such a toxic environment.
Does a lot of damage.
Everybody. Yeah, it does. It really does.
So
anyway,
I would tell anybody listening that if you are in a relationship, a marriage, a situationship, that you feel stuck and scared and don't know where to go, I will put all of Kristi's information in the show notes, but I would recommend finding her. I found her on Facebook, and she's got a wonderful Facebook page. It tells you all about what she does. There's a whole list of questions and information, and it's called, you can go on Facebook and look for Scared and Stuck, right?
Yeah. I also have a website, Scaredandstuck.ca. And through that, you can purchase the book, but you can also book an appointment with me if you want some guidance and some support through your tough time. So that's Scaredandstuck.ca, and I'm happy to help anybody that needs it. I've been there, I've done that. I know how hard it is.
Yeah.
So,
and that's why I'm doing this podcast, is to get the message out there that what I went through, and other people who have, like I said before, I one thing that I became very humble in learning is that even though mine was a 2.5-year relationship, there are I'll stick with the women right now, that there are women who are in these horrible abusive relationships for
Yeah.
10, 15, 20
Yeah.
years. And
Yes.
they really feel as if there's nowhere to go and no
Yeah.
hope. And there is,
Mhm.
and there is.
There is. There is.
And Kris Valenti is one
Yes.
place I would send you immediately. So
Definitely. Yeah. I'm
any
happy to help. Yeah.
last parting thoughts or advice? I will push your book. We'll put that up there on the show notes. The book is available. Is it on Amazon?
It's on Amazon. It's at Barnes and Noble, and you can
Okay.
also get through the link through the website as well. So, yeah, just take those courageous steps. Leave your unhappy marriage and start finding love, like, for yourself again. Loving yourself is probably the best thing you can do right now if you're stuck and scared in a relationship, because if you love yourself, then you'll be able to take those next steps a lot easier.
And it won't be so easy in the beginning, but once you separate yourself from that partner,
Right.
it begins to get better. And take it from me, it has gotten a
Yes.
lot better. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's great. Well, thank you very much for having me, Andrew. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for
I'd be happy
jumping
to
on
do
last
this
minute.
again. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
All right, Kristi, everybody,
you.
Kristi Valenti, Scared and Stuck. If you're in a relationship and you need help to get out, give Kristi a shout out. All right,
Yes,
Kristi, thank you for joining me.
Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
I think my new word of the day is wow. After every interview, I'm just blown away by the amount of information, resources, stories of not just what I went through, but what other people are going through. And I in a true fashion of thinking that I was the only one that was ashamed and felt disrespected, and I was empty when I left my relationship. We never compare, but mine pales in comparison to what some people have gone through. And I've had a couple of guests on that their stories have just been amazing examples of strength and perseverance to not only endure what they went through in the marriage, but to get out. And but a lot of us don't know what to do. We don't know why we're staying and how to get out and what's going to happen, because we're afraid of what is on the other side. If we leave that relationship, and especially if you've been in there for any long length of time, what are you going to do? And if you've been with somebody for anywhere from 2 years to 5 years to 15 years, you're going to be alone, and you're going to be starting all over again. But thanks to people like Kristi Valenti, that there's hope and resources. So, folks, speaking of help and resources, please take 2 minutes and go down to the bottom of your platform if you're on Apple or Spotify. And I think some of the other apps are starting to let you leave reviews now. Give me a review, please. That's all I ask of you. We want to get this podcast up into the world. We got to get this message out there, and the only way to do that is leave me a review so the algorithm pushes it up. Ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful day. I hope you're safe. And if you're going to make a choice, please choose wisely. Until next time, ciao.